Welcome to the pop culture cosmos.
And we're back for another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much again for joining us all these years. We've been doing this. I cannot thank you enough for being part of what we do right here. Please, if you're watching this, like and subscribe. If you're listening, that 5-star review really helps. After all these years, we have just cannot thank you enough for all the support that you've given us and for everything that you've done. We are so grateful for providing you the best in pop culture each and every week right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without a good friend, and she returns back to us one more time. Hopefully, this won't be a one off. Hopefully, she'll be back with us at least in spirit, or at least in presence whenever she chooses to. It is, of course, the master and the ruler of the radio waves. Indeed, it is a great part of what we have done so many years and hopefully going forward as well. It is Melinda Barkhouse-Ross. And Melinda, great to have you back on the program.
So good to see you. Oh, God,
Yes.
excuse me. It's the morning time, so they're not awake.
Yeah, I've got
yet,
that
but
morning voice as well. It's always low.
yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Yes, by the end of the day, it's high. So I will say this: I'm just very happy to see you, and happy to hear you and Robbie are well. Hopefully, he is getting his Warhammer on, because it sounds like there's another good year of Warhammer ahead. But before we get into our annual Rock and Roll Hall of Fame discussion, how are you two doing? What have you been doing in pop culture?
Oh my goodness. Well, I am working with a independent radio station back in Nova Scotia, so that's been really fun. Robbie has a job on the Strip, which he loves. He's meeting so many people. You should find him on Instagram if you can, Rob James Ross. Yeah, we're just getting through like everybody else is right now, and just doing our best to find fun ways to do it all.
There you go. Absolutely, indeed. I'm so happy for you both, and so happy that you two continue to rock it out there, and wishing you both continued success as always. But of course, when those Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I guess, nominees were announced, there's no place I'd rather go to. There's no person I'd rather talk to. We did this for years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had this conversation with others. I've had this conversation before many years, but my conversations are always best with you on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because you, with your background, knows the music scene almost better than anyone else out there.
That's very generous. Thank you.
Well, I got to hype you up, So with that, though, it is always very spirited, because as far as where we go to, our picks, but also the snubs. And it also seems like the snubs are the most important part of this equation when it concerns the Hall of Fame. But before we get into the nominees themselves, has the way that they've gone through, have the picks that they've gone through year after year, if we go through it, does it get any better for you? Do you see that, like, when you see these nominations, it's like, okay, they're getting it, they're on the right path, they're not what they were before, there looks like they're putting in artists that they should be putting in? Do you see more hope for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Because I know you and I through the years have gone like, okay, they just don't get it. They just never get it, and it seemingly never will at times. But I don't know, with the class that I see this year, it seems like maybe there's no real like automatic stamp of approval. You have to put them in. Seems like a lot of lifelong career artists that are really deserving of these nominations. And I think that this time, I think we're almost like in a gap period before we start getting to the artists of the today era, or the era of the 2000s, where we're really going to see some superstars come up. But I think we're in a gap period where we're just trying to find worthy bands and worthy artists to make this list.
Well, I think it's like anything else, right? If you are a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame should be rock and roll only purist, right?
Mhm.
The truth of the matter is there are decades, I think, there are a number of years at least, where rock and roll music just wasn't incredibly prevalent. I don't want to say it wasn't important to pop culture, because all forms of music are important to pop culture, but I think that there were definitely years where other forms of music and other genres were a little bit more front and center, a little more popular with the general public. So I think that what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame needs to do in order to keep eyes on them and to keep their importance and their prevalence in pop culture and, you know, in music in general, is to also follow some of those trends. And so if you're talking to people and they're like, oh, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's not rock and roll anymore, well, it's a music hall of fame, and you can't discount any genre of music really from it, or you're going to start to exclude massive amounts of people, and people are not going to be all that interested in it. And that would be the death bell, if you ask me, for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think that they're very smart in how inclusive their lists have gotten and have continued to be over the years.
But there is a country music hall of fame, and it's so funny because there's some articles that I've gone through in preparing for this episode that say, "Oh, these country music artists were snubbed," but they have their own hall of fame. There actually is, and we've discussed this before. There actually is a pop music hall of fame on a much lesser sense that it's known, but the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you know, it's the marquee, it's the one, it's the big name, it's the one that was initiated first, the one that was started first, so that's obviously why it gets the most interest and the most importance out there. But yeah, again, like you said, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, as far as what people traditionally think of rock and roll, stopped being that long time ago, so it is now and more inclusive to recognize greatness in a whole wide area of genres. When it comes to country music, I think country music, again, because there's Country Music Hall of Fame, is well known enough. I think it needs to always be separated from that. There's no need to put country music artists into it, but everybody else, well, you know, but if you're a classical music artist, will you get, where do you go to get recognized? So yeah, I don't know if it's even broad enough, but if you make it broader, it lessens the name even more. So I don't know. It's you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Once you open that bottle and let the genie out in regards to starting to veer away from just traditional rock and roll, now how far do you go?
Sure. And okay, so the thing about country music is they have had their country music institutions long before I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame came up. Like the Grand Ole Opry has been an institution for, my gosh, as long as country music has been around, I think. So, you know, the argument about whether or not country music belongs in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, to me, almost feels like you win a municipal level award, then you win a state level award, and then you win a federal level award. And to me, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is that top tier. It is that federal level award that you know you could possibly win. So that's kind of how I've looked at it. I don't know if that's correct or not. And I'm sure that there are arguments for the Country Music Hall of Fame and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to be on the same level. But to me, they're just not equal in terms of importance to a general music fan.
Fair enough, fair enough. But then that's also segmented into the people who follow that music as well, because maybe to country music aficionados and country music fans, maybe the Country Music Hall of Fame is more important than the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Well, absolutely, but that's like saying that California is more important than New York. When you get to that level, when you start to have that kind of an argument, right? Like they're both incredibly important. They're both very valuable. They both bring culturally specific things to the table. And it's just a conversation that nobody is ever going to win, because it becomes a circle argument, and there's not a clear win or lose when you look at it that way, if you ask me.
Meanwhile, there's Luciano Pavarotti, Leonard Bernstein, I guess
Right.
Chopin, Beethoven.
Yeah.
They're all
Right,
sitting on
right.
the side because there's nothing for them. So sorry,
Right.
no classical music or opera Hall of Fame for you. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
Whoops.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I I was adding color. That's all.
There you go. All right, indeed. But it is, of course, Melinda Barkhouse-Ross. She has returned for this great episode where we discuss the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has an interesting list. Again, there's no, for me, like a first time nominee, you got to put them in. There's just, when I see this list, it's like a lot of very successful artists, a lot of artists that have transcended through the years, through the 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond. But none of them say I have to put them in when I look at this list. So let's look at this list as far as the first 5 are concerned. The Black Crowes, by alphabetical order: Jeff Buckley,
Sure.
Mariah Carey, Phil Collins, and Melissa Etheridge. I guess it's surprising because Mariah Carey, I believe, is on this list twice now, 3 times that she wasn't honored. I mean, with all the success, if we're going by album sales, this is her 3rd nomination. I'm sorry. I guess, she isn't that one and done like I thought she would have been in 2024. And then 2025, she was just completely ignored as well. If we're talking about album sales, if we're talking about success on a pop level, if we're talking about a Billboard Top 100 level, then I don't know if any of these other artists have the same claim as she does. I mean, she has 19 number 1 hits.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift doesn't have that, but yet Taylor Swift comes on this list tomorrow. She would be immediately inducted. So I don't know. Mariah Carey, how important was she in the 90s when she was really, I think that's what you have to ask yourself. That's maybe why she hasn't been not put in. I mean, we're not talking about a Christmas song that she is just will reap the benefits of for her entire lifetime and beyond. I'm talking
her
about
kids will reap the benefits of that.
exactly, but I'm talking about the other hits that she had. She's had 19 of them that have reached the top of the charts, but somehow she remains off this list as far as in the Hall of Fame. Why has she yet to achieve that level? This is her 3rd nomination.
I honestly, I don't know why she hasn't been inducted at this point. As you said, you can't argue the numbers. You can't argue the facts about Mariah Carey. And Christmas music aside, you'd be hard pressed to find someone who has not at some point in their lives heard a Mariah Carey song. To me, they're a lot like she is a lot like and I'm not making like an adjacent comparison here. Bear with me while I kind of explain my point. A lot like the Foo Fighters, where you might not be a fan, but you probably have a song that you really like by her. Right? Like that's how I am with the Foo Fighters. I'm not a huge Foo Fighter fan, but I do have the Foo Fighter song that ends up on just about every playlist that I make on Spotify. So when I think about Mariah Carey into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that's the bare minimum that I'm looking at when it comes to Mariah Carey, is that I feel like everybody has a song by her that they enjoy, even if it's begrudgingly. You either know some of the lyrics, you know the hook, you find yourself, tapping your foot to it, or, you're listening to it when you're depressed, whatever the case is. That's where I think that Mariah Carey stands in the pack, in the running for this one. I couldn't tell you why she hasn't been in yet. A solo female artist who has achieved what she has is a pretty big deal, and I think that she does deserve the accolade.
Phil Collins is a harder one because of the fact that where do you separate? Because Genesis, I believe, is already in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, yeah.
And where do you separate his success as a solo artist? Because you do have like Take a Look at Me Now from the Against All Odds soundtrack. Can't believe I still remember that. I mean, I didn't even watch the movie. I know Jeff Bridges is in that movie. I remember that because they used to play that video all the time. But where do you separate In the Air Tonight, his success as a solo artist in the 80s, you could say, as far as it's concerned? and into the 90s to an extent. Where do you separate that from his success from this? Is there enough of a separation from his success as a solo artist to what he did with Genesis? Does he need to be in by himself?
This is a fair question. And if he is an interesting entry into the list. Now, I am going to counter your Phil Collins argument. And I'm not comparing apples to apples here. I understand that. But look at how many times Eric Clapton is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's in with multiple bands. I believe he's also in solo. So it's not unheard of for that to happen by any stretch of the imagination. It does seem to be a thing that happens with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But when you start to talk about Phil Collins, you're kind of getting into like the stuff that he's no, I can't even make that argument. I was going to say, like, you're looking at, like the Disney movie Phil Collins. Is that the Phil Collins that we're putting in, or are we putting in the Air Tonight Phil Collins? Do all of those things need to be considered, I think is the question. I think they do. But of everyone on the list, I'm not sure that this is his year.
Black Crowes is another interesting one I just round off as far as them. They achieved a level of notoriety, but they never achieved, I guess, extreme success. Were they at the top, at their peak, in their years of their peak? It's funny because we related to the Athletic Hall of Fame that I do as far as this argument is concerned. At their peak powers, at their peak levels, the years that they were, at their best, were they at the top of the food chain? Were they among the top individual bands? I know they're a Grammy Award-winning band. I know they've achieved some commercial success, but was it enough to sustain itself for a Hall of Fame induction?
Well, here's the thing, and I am absolutely not saying that I'm by any means a prolific fan of music. I've just kind of worked in the adjacent industry for a lot of years. And when it comes to the Black Crowes, they're a band that I've always been aware of, but they were never really a band that I sought out. I'm aware of a couple of their songs, but I can promise you that I never sat down to listen to a full album. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't belong and they shouldn't have a place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. If they had even one album that was influential, I think that deserves notoriety when it comes to the Hall of Fame. But again, is this the year for them? That's really what it comes down to, and I don't think it's their year. Watch them make it in, and I'll be eating my cat.
You'll be eating your Black Crow.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's exactly right. So that's kind of how I look at it, I think, for them.
No worries. Again, I don't know. I just, when I look at them, I'm looking at when I look at any of these candidates at their peak, were they considered at the top of their list, at the top of the food chain? Were they in the top 10 artists the years that they were at the peak of their powers? What I look at as far as, and for how long? Was it not just a one hit or two hit wonder? Were they sustainable over a period of time?
Yeah, if you're listening to a rock station, are they in the gold category? Are they in a recurrent category? Like, are they a foundational band to a rock radio station? That's a valid question to ask as well.
Fair enough. Melissa Etheridge, Lauryn Hill, Billy Idol, INXS, Iron Maiden. We'll go through those next. Melissa Etheridge, she has been previously nominated before. You got to ask yourself the same question with her. She's achieved a very long and steady career, but do you put in a long and steady career as opposed to one that has, I saw Black Velvet, I think?
No, that was not her. That wasn't Melissa Etheridge. Okay. No, okay. Come to My Window was Melissa.
Come to My Window. Yes. Etheridge. Come to My Window. Yes. Okay.
That's the one. Yeah.
That's the one. Okay. I mean, that's the most notable of her hits. Just is a slow and steady career going to put you into the Hall of Fame, for lack of a better term, on her.
Right. And are there more deserving artists on the list right now? I would put Mariah Carey in before I would put Melissa Etheridge in, which is wild because Melissa Etheridge, definitely leans more into rock music than Mariah Carey does. But if you ask me, if you're comparing solo female to solo female, I would put Mariah Carey in before Melissa Etheridge. And that hurts my heart a little bit because I had Melissa Etheridge albums when I was growing up. I like her voice. I like the sound and the gravelness and all of that stuff to her tone. I love all of that. So yeah, it's a funny thing, but I don't know if necessarily this would be her year.
Lauryn Hill was the one that you said you were kind of wondering about. She has one of the greatest albums of the 90s, The Miseducation.
She is one of the
Lauryn
greatest
Hill.
albums of my entire life, to be honest with you.
Hey,
It's an album that I have bought over and over and over and over again in every single format. If it came out on 8-track, I would have it on 8-track. Like I love that album so much. It meant so much to me when I was growing up, when I was a teenager. It was one of those. She was an artist that was with the Fugees, of course. You can't discount her work there. But I think we're really focusing on her solo stuff, and The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Like, if you are a music fan, that album should be in your collection. I have an album, I have it on cassette, I have it digitally many times. And it's one of those albums that I come back to over and over and over again. And when you talk to people, in my age bracket, a lot of people say the same thing. Even people who aren't necessarily fans of that genre of music are like, yeah, that's a fantastic album. It's so good. But is one album enough? I don't know.
That's essentially what you're putting in is,
right.
I mean, if they have a Hall of Fame for albums, that's in. That's one of the greatest.
Day one, it's in.
Yeah.
Like I'm building the foundation on that one album.
Top 100 albums of all time, absolutely in there
for sure. Yes,
I know. Again,
so,
we'll have to wait and see.
Right, and if you're looking for, let's say, part of the criteria when you're voting, when you're considering how you're going to vote, that's a prolific album. There's no question of its impact on popular culture. There's no argument against how important that album was, but I'm just not sure that it gets you into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in this class. And that hurts my heart because I love it so much.
One of the ones that I want to ask you next is, I'm sorry, I don't have my chainmail on. Billy Idol. Billy Idol, I guess a visual icon, a guy who really stood out in the age of the rise of music videos. Your thoughts on Billy Idol?
To me, he's an easy in. He's another one of those artists where you could be listening to just a random mix of music and go, I didn't realize that he sang that song. I feel like there's a lot of that happens right now. No question on his impact and influence on 80s music and 80s culture, with the punk movement and all of that stuff. There's absolutely zero question of it. So to me, he's an easy in.
In Excess. That's
yes.
That's one I have a question about because, at their peak, they were one of the top 20 bands in the rise of the 80s, but this Australian supergroup didn't get to see its full he didn't get to see its full development of its whole entire music career because of what happened with the lead singer. Does In Excess get put in based on that shorter tenure of music?
FC, and this is where you start to consider bands, and I think that it becomes an argument where you wouldn't make the argument for one band, but you would make it for another band. I think that when it comes to In Excess, there's a mystique around In Excess. There's a mythos around In Excess, even with them, trying to bring the band back together with a new frontman and the things that happened with that. Is the mythology of a band enough to get them in? Is that enough to get your vote? That's the question that I think people need to ask themselves when they're sitting down and voting. Yeah, it's about voting for your favorite bands, and that's, you're hard pressed to find music fans who don't, again, include one or two tracks from INXS on their list. But is it enough for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Indeed. Iron Maiden.
Yes.
Iron Maiden. I think we had this discussion last year about Iron Maiden in regards
I feel like we have talked about them specifically multiple times at this point. So just why? What's the hesitation?
People still wear Iron Maiden t-shirts to this day.
Right. Yeah.
People know them more from their t-shirts than their music, but it's because their music resonated with the heavy metal audience. It's not based off of chart success. And they have albums, they've sold tens of millions of albums. That's not a question. It's what influence did they have on their heavy metal culture and pop culture as well. And again, we, like I said, we still see Iron Maiden t-shirts to this very day being produced and sold and bought. And again, why they're not in, I think we both put them in last year, and again, they were denied. So we'll see what happens this year. Joy Division / New Order, essentially New Order, New Edition, Oasis, Pink, and Sade.
Oasis makes sense to me, I think. Again,
well, if we're basing it on siblings fighting within the confines of a rock group, then they would have been already in.
Right, but if you are talking about, again, the excuse me, my goodness, if you're talking about, again, the mythology and the mythos of what surrounds a band, and you're not purely talking about the music, you can't say they weren't interesting.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean that. Right? Yes. But there was their career, was their peak of their music long enough? Because we're still only talking, what, 2 albums?
Yeah, I think so, maybe. Yeah, something like that.
At their peak, yeah.
So when it's, to me, and again, I'm not comparing apples and apples here. I understand that. But to me, you're looking at Oasis in the same vein that you look at Guns N' Roses. When they were good, they were so good. You couldn't argue against it. But when it was bad, baby, it was bad. So, from the heights of their heights to the lows of their lows, that there's an incredible story there. So is that enough? Again, the mythos and mythology of a band, is that enough to get them into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? In some cases, I say yes. And I think Oasis kind of fits that bill. Is this their year? I can't say. But, I can understand how they would be on the list of nominees.
What about Pink, who not only does she should be more worried about whether or not she's getting in or not, but I guess the media already has her separated from her husband. All that she said, that's news to my kids. So Pink, as a early 2000s success story, that still she has reached some levels within recent times as well. She has a more longer sustainable career than most of these artists. Right. Does that get her in, even though she's had, like, maybe not top success? Again, we're talking about someone who has achieved a lot of notoriety and a pretty good success story over the 2000s. She's one of the first 2000s artists to get recognized.
Yeah, and when you're thinking about Pink, you have to think about where she started and what the record labels and the kind of music that the record labels forced her to do, her fight against that, and the now being able to make the albums and the music that she wants to make. I think that there are some things to consider with Pink, not just dismissing her because you don't like the song So What, because it's been played on radio ad nauseum for a long time. If you're not super familiar with Pink's story, I do think that it's worth looking at before you go and you cast your vote. I don't know that this is her year exactly. I don't necessarily agree with all of Pink's opinions and the way that she has approached things, but what relevance does that have to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I don't know.
Okay. Just wanted to get that thought in there. Once again, it is, of course, my good friend Melinda Barkhouse-Ross. Go ahead and check out what she's doing today across the social medias, which will go ahead and make sure she gives a cheap plug before we head on out, if she chooses to. But again, it is my good friend Melinda Barkhouse-Ross coming back for our Hall of Fame highs and lows, the nominees and snubs, as we'll go ahead. The snubs are always the funnest part of what we do on this show on that, but wanted to go ahead and finish off the list for nominees before we get into the I guess conference room to go ahead and settle in on the actual voting artists. Sade, Shakira, Luther Vandross, and the Wu-Tang Clan. Now, Shakira is also an artist who has reaped the rewards from the early 2000s to, I guess she's probably the one individual in this whole mix that has had the closest thing to a hit song in recent years. I believe, was it from The Last Utopia?
Yeah, the first Utopia. Yeah.
Yes. So she is the closest thing to a modern artist that is included in this list.
But
What do
not
you
without
think?
controversy. Not without controversy.
Please
You
go
know,
ahead, share.
there are questions of plagiarism that come up surrounding Shakira. There are questions of, you know, not necessarily giving the right credit to artists who obviously very clearly influenced some of the songs that she has done. So on that alone, I would be hesitant. You know, it just, I don't dislike Shakira's music, but I don't necessarily get the best vibes. If vibes are a factor at all when you cast your vote, I don't know that this is. I don't know that it would be a good addition to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I enjoy her music. I like some of the stuff that she's done, but some of the more questionable stuff is big time questionable.
All right. And then Sade.
Yeah.
She is a really centralized point in time for her success.
Mm-hmm. Very niche.
Very niche. So yeah. I don't know how hard do you fight for her when you're talking about going ahead and putting her out there. What are your thoughts on Sade?
Yeah, I feel the same. I think that's an apt way to put it. She remains relevant through people who continue to bring her up and continue to bring her into discussions, to continue to drop her name in songs. You know, she remains known because of her appreciation through modern artists. Is that clear? Does that make sense? Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where I stand with her. And if you are an artist who continues to influence new artists decades after your success, I think that is something that should make you considered.
They have a modern influence category, so yeah. She might be more apt to be put in that fashion.
Sure. I think Luther Vandross is the same. You cannot dispute his success and the impact that he has had, but you know, and again, he's another one that
there's a hit song from last year with his name on it.
Right. Yeah. So it's that becomes the question, you know, is cultural relevancy enough to get you in?
Well, you're definitely going to talk about it with the next and final band, with the Wu-Tang Clan, because you're not basing this off of chart-topping singles or whatnot. You're basing this off of the I guess the influence that they gave out, but also what those members did separately, and then also the mystique around that. And I wish we had a couple dollars put together so that we could buy that famous album.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Maybe if they get inducted, they'll play that album on the air. Yeah, they should. That's what they should do.
Could you imagine?
Yes, yeah. I would vote for them initially right now if they will go ahead and play that album on the air. Yes.
Right. Yes. Yeah. But then the value of the album drops. Isn't that a funny thing?
Yes.
For that, like, what I mean, that says a lot about them as artists, if you ask me. You have an album that people want to hear so bad that they're paying millions and millions and millions of dollars for it. And as soon as everybody starts to hear it, the value would start to go down. That's such a funny thing, the market.
Well, again, it was just recently played in front of I guess, a small crowd. Which film festival? I think it was. What's the recent one? But it was just played recently in front of a small gathering. I guess you got Sundance. It was played at Sundance. So yeah, just but make sure you don't have your phones with you. Can't be recording off that thing. So yeah, can't do that indeed. But yes, Wu-Tang Clan is also included as well as a influence to modern rap music. So with that, it is now time to go ahead, or do you want to go ahead with the snubs first? That's up to
you. I think we should jump into the snubs. I think we should go for that. That's
okay,
always
the snubs first. Okay.
Yeah.
If you have, I'm gonna give you what we do 5 snubs.
I think so. Yeah.
I think we could do snubs all day. But 5 snubs. So I want you to come up with 5 snubs on your list.
Oh my goodness. I didn't prepare for that. Okay.
Because there is quite an eclectic list of individuals that continue to just be there. And I think this goes back to the people who are deciding on the nominees, and I really
right. The monkeys, for example.
Yes. So Weird Al for another. Weird Al has achieved commercial success and longevity. Very few of these bands we're talking about have even thought of or even been a part of. Yet he will never be on this list because the people who are behind it, which is just a travesty in and of itself.
We have Grand Funk Railroad. That's another one.
Fish is another one that they actually led. They actually led the voting for bands that the people wanted to get in. They still have a following when they play. I know one of the guys that does one of my other channels, or that appears on one of my other channels. He is an avid Fish fan. It's not the largest group in the world, but it's very avid, and they sell out wherever they go. So they're still a commercial artist to this day on touring. So Fish is another one. Styx is another one.
Motorhead.
Just there's so many bands, but if you were to name 5, who would that be?
Okay, in my list, I would include Soundgarden for the Seattle sound of the 90s.
Yep, excellent.
I would include Grand Funk Railroad. I don't think that you can really deny their influence on folks, and the overall sound of music. I think that's again, it's a relevant talking point when you're having these discussions. Motorhead, to me, it's ridiculous that they're not in. That's crazy. I mean, do we just do the monkeys because they should just be in?
You know me on that one. I mean, even before you did this show, I've been really trying to put the monkeys out there, but it's been said by the people who run that, I don't know if they're still running it, but their aversion to ever putting the monkeys in there. And
so funny.
And now that there's only one alive, be kind of nice if you thought about it, but
right. Yeah. Let one show up to the thing. And I'm going to say the Smiths as well. I think the Smiths should be in.
Yeah. The Smiths are an excellent choice. Again, if I were to go 5, Motorhead and the Smiths just barely are off this list, but if they were nominated next year, I would probably put them in ahead of quite a few of these bands. But I am going the Monkees. Surprise to no one. Weird Al, who's again, he's achieved commercial success beyond any of these bands almost, and yet I don't get it. And talk about influence, pop culture, I don't get it. It's just it's like a it just seems like it's a snub because we're too good for you. We're too, it just seems
Yeah.
like that it's very aristocratic in nature, to say.
Absolutely. And I think that's a big part of the Weird Al argument is, his music is satire, I suppose. So, is that really culturally relevant? Well, look at his following, man.
I mean, he still packs them in today when he goes on tour.
Right. Sometimes the Weird Al songs are bigger than the songs that he spoofed, satire,
spoof.
parody.
Yeah.
Thank you. Parody is the word I was searching for and was not coming up at all in my brain. So
no worries. Again, he's achieved that level of success. It's beyond me. If you're some of the artists that they've put in, if you're going to put them in, why don't you put in, Weird Al? But
right.
I digress. I know there's a lot of 80s bands I'd like to go ahead and cover. There's a lot of I guess instrumental artists or electronic artists I would love to put in, but I'm going to go ahead and finish off my list with Fish. I'm going to go with you on the Soundgarden, grunge.
Yeah.
One of the top names in grunge. How are they not in? And Styx. I'm going to go with Styx because they were a top band in the 70s and to the very early 80s, but they did achieve a level of success. Dennis DeYoung's voice, Tommy Shaw, they had diversity among people who could step up and front a hit song and
Right.
had multiple hit songs over multiple albums and achieved a level of success in the 70s where they were considered one of the top bands. And how they're not in, I just honestly, I don't even know.
Yeah, there's definitely some head scratchers.
Oh, as always, my friend. But that finally, I guess, takes us to for the last, I guess, 18 minutes or so, to our list of the finalists. Got the men and women, the bands, the artists who should be inducted, at least in our opinion, to the Hall of Fame. How many bands or artists can be inducted? I think I see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I guess, can be put in.
Okay.
All right. I don't know if I'm going to go that deep. I'm going to say that, from 1 to 8, you can put as many as you want, up to 8, I guess, if you do, but I don't think I will go that high. Probably put in just 4 or 5 myself. Your thoughts on where you would go and why you would induct those artists?
From the list of nominees this year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to put Jeff Buckley in. I'm going to put Iron Maiden in.
Why on Jeff Buckley? Because we didn't talk about him on the list of nominees.
We didn't talk about Jeff Buckley, but I think that those who know Jeff Buckley deeply. And
if you know, you know.
Yeah, like it's that kind of thing. And I think that his story is deeply tragic. And I think that
documentary on him, by the way.
Yeah. I just think that his moment, I guess, in music, to the people who know, the people who followed it at the time, is it's really important, I think. And that's why I would put him in. He's one of those artists that music fans discover at this point, and I think that that deserves a nod. So I would put Jeff Buckley in. Yeah.
All right, that's number 1 for you. Who's next?
Who is next? I think I'm going to go against some of the stuff that I was saying earlier. I would put Mariah Carey in. I think she's earned that. I don't think that you can disregard her success. She's a cultural moment. And her songs, even the songs that came out in the 90s, they still don't sound dated to me. Maybe that's my age showing, but it still sounds like it should have place on modern radio, at least. Okay, so I said Iron Maiden. I'm going to add Wu-Tang.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I would put Phil Collins in as well. I think that would be my list.
Okay.
Mm.
You know, I love New Order, but
Yeah.
I don't know if you would put New Order in. I think they were did they achieve a top level success in the 80s with the British invasion, the electronic sensation, the new wave in sensation? They have 3-4 great hits that have in some cases still achieved some level of success today. You know, Blue Monday, you know, among others, but I don't know if I can get there with them yet. I just don't know. Again, I just think there are enough, even in a what I would consider a weaker class
Mm-hmm.
as far as names, I still can't put them in, which hurts me because I do enjoy their music. So,
Yeah.
I am going to go first. Mariah Carey,
Mm-hmm.
19 number one hits. I
Yeah.
mean, we talked about Weird Al, but she has achieved more success than anyone on this list.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know how she's not in it, but she's on her third. No, I think it's actually when it comes right down to it, if she gets bypassed this year, there is some level of bias as far as I'm concerned. There must be someone there that just does not like her.
Right.
So when it comes to it is personal. If she does not get in, it's personal, and I'll leave it at that. Phil Collins
Mm-hmm.
is my next one because I think Phil Collins, when it comes right down to it, he has achieved enough. Disney soundtracks aside, he has achieved enough success as a solo artist in the 80s and 90s that I think that he is deserving of that recognition over the course of a period of 10 years. I think that would be what I would say with him outside of Genesis. So yeah, I think with him. Go ahead.
One of my favorite things to watch is reaction videos. So it's like, you know, younger, like older teens, people in their lower 20s, they do the reaction videos. Like, I've never listened to Phil Collins before, and then they sit down, and I love, like, I can spend an evening watching those videos very easily. And the reactions from people when they listen to Phil Collins, to me, shows the impact that his music has on people. And to me, that still makes it relevant to music fans who are out there discovering new music. Just based on those reaction videos alone. And maybe that's a bit silly.
Oh
I don't
no,
know.
that's well said. That's well said.
Yeah.
Billy Idol, as
Mhm.
an icon of the 80s, and the fact that he thrived in a period where music became visual.
Yes.
Music became a visceral experience, and he was at the forefront of that. And Billy Idol, I think, gets in. Plus, if he got snubbed again, I would be afraid he might try to hit me. So, with his chain metal. So, yes, I
Right,
would,
right, right,
yes,
right.
to save myself some pain, I'm going to put him in there. Iron Maiden. I think
Mhm.
every year they've been nominated, we put them in, and you know, don't know why.
Just saying. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people will probably protest if they don't get in again with all their Iron Maiden t-shirts. So yeah, there you go. The last one I would put in Oasis. I don't know yet. I really am still coming to, was there high of heights? And in fact, I know that they're selling out to arenas and stadiums on their reunion tour, but what their actual career
Mhm.
was brief. Their
Yes.
songs were memorable, but was their tenure before they got in each other's face? To me, they seem like the ultimate what if they haven't gone after each other, if they'd continued success with each other through the late 90s, early 2000s and moved on, they would have probably been a super group that probably would have just defined what the 90s and 2000s, that period of time between 95 and 2005 would have been and should have been up to 2010.
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
could have achieved that level of success. We see bands like Coldplay and some other bands that have been around since the early 2000s still achieved today. So yeah, Oasis, I just can't get there with it. But the last group I'm gonna put in there is, and not because I want to listen to that album, but the Wu-Tang Clan,
Yeah.
per se. The Wu-Tang Clan is very influential. You talk to rap artists and they say the Wu-Tang Clan, and you're not doing it by one song or a song as far as chart topping success. You're doing it based off of what they did as far as an influence to a whole genre of music, an attitude that they brought, personalities that they brought. We talk about
Mhm.
some of the great artists of all time with NWA, with other rap artists of the early 90s and mid 90s, and Wu-Tang Clan is got to be considered in that realm of influential rap groups of all time.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah.
So there you have it. Our choices once again, which will probably be ignored by the Academy in its entirety. So there you go again.
Gonna start writing those strongly worded emails.
Yes, exactly. Or step outside the Cleveland Rock and Roll. There's this strange lady today holding signs and sending out emails behind the outside of Cleveland Rock and Roll Hall of Fame today.
Right. Yeah.
Again, it's there. We will talk again, I'm sure, next year about the same snubs as always, because it
Mhm.
just doesn't seem to change. But again, this is not a group outside of, even Mariah Carey, because she's been ignored time and time again. This is not a group of individuals that, oh, they just qualified. Oh, they got to be put in right away. I don't
Right.
see those artists as of yet. I think that's around the corner. We're going to start seeing some of those artists. Taylor Swift, I believe, is eligible within the next 10 years. You're going to see her and some others that are dominating the charts still today being put in. So it will be more of an easier pick, I guess, for us right now. But I think we're right in kind of a lull period right now where there's really good groups, almost great groups, but outside of Mariah Carey, I can't see anyone that's like you gotta have to put them in. Maybe Iron Maiden, but yeah,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
but obviously there's been thinking that they haven't put them in. They haven't put them in.
Mhm.
Mariah Carey and Iron Maiden that still to this day haven't been put in. So I guess there's no real uh band or artist right now that I see that is, that's a must put in right now for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I agree. At least not on the nomination list. I don't know. And yeah, I'm sure that there are people screaming at their speakers right now because we haven't considered something that is glaringly obvious to them. So, we'd love to hear about that.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yes. Let me know in the comments below, or if you want to go ahead, you can email us popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. But before we head on out, what's going on in the world of Melinda? I know you are out there on social media. You've been propping up some of your work as far as with other ventures and whatnot. Is there anything you want to do a cheap plug for before we head on out?
Actually, yes, I would love to do a cheap plug for the last that we spoke, Robbie and I were involved with Vampire the Masquerade LARP. We even spoke to Alex, one of the organizers, I guess the organizer, the head storyteller anyway. So what has happened is I have found myself heavily involved in their YouTube channel. Voicing scripts and stuff like that. And what has happened, it was the same thing that has happened to a lot of other YouTube creators, is that the algorithm is not being nice. They've changed how they're doing things. Short videos seem to be all the rage when you open up the YouTube main channel, and so that is bumping long form videos off. So there's only like 2 of them that are being shown now, I think, on that main page when you first open up YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and you just search Desert of Shadows, you're gonna find us. And we just like to be telling. We just like to tell stories that are based on the lore of the world of darkness. And I have my own series that I've been working on, vampire journals, and it's things that actually happened to my vampire character over the 2 years that we were part of that LARP. So it's been a lot of fun to work on. Super proud of the work that we've done, and I just think that and maybe I'm being biased, but I think it's a little bit criminal that the channel isn't a bit bigger than it is right now. So if vampires are your thing, if you liked the new Dracula movie, for example, maybe check out the channel, give us a like, give us a subscribe, all of that stuff. And yeah, we do our best to keep you as entertained as possible with the content that we've been working on. So that's probably the biggest project that I'm on right now.
Before you go, I do have a
Mhm.
request.
Mhm.
At some point in time, we need to sit down and talk about Star Trek. I actually had a someone on one of my other shows reach out to me and say, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Star Trek and your successor in the PCC Multiverse, the Friday show. TJ Johnson and I have covered it in August, I believe, and we also covered it recently based off the request. But with what's going on with Paramount and Warner Brothers and the acquisition that looks more and
Mhm.
more imminent, the fact that they want to revamp and redo Star Trek, the fact that they want to end the Kelvin timeline, Star Trek, Starfleet Academy, supposedly has been greenlit for season 2, but the ratings, it has not appeared in the top 10 as far as the Nielsen ratings for the streaming ratings, where they've had other success stories on Paramount Plus. At some point in time, I'm hoping you and I can go ahead and have a long discussion on Star Trek and what it is, or what it could become or what it may not become, um, as far as Star Trek, because there are more and more calls from people that maybe Star Trek has finally met its end, and especially with the fact that Paramount is going to get an influx of more popular IP. Game of Thrones. You're talking about what's going on with DC. You're talking about all the
Mhm.
stuff that they're getting already. Where will Star Trek fit in the entire equation? At some point in time, as a beloved Star Trek fan, I think if it would be all possible, come back on the show to talk Star Trek with me on that.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I think the key thing for Star Trek is to have writers who actually love Star Trek. I don't know, start there. That's my
And again,
opinion.
and
In a
and
nutshell,
also,
that's what we would talk about.
but also see if it's something you and I've talked about before, if Star Trek still can connect with a popular audience in 2026 and beyond. So
Yeah.
that's the thing I'd really want to go ahead and sit down with you on that and talk. So some point in time we will catch up on that because I'd love to hear your thoughts. I don't know the fate of Star Trek Starfleet Academy yet after season 1 is ending as we talk right now on it. So we'll see. Again, I was told that there's Star Trek season 2 for that is in production, but I don't know. I have the I don't know feeling about it. We've already seen where shows are in advance approved for a new season, then in recent times not get approved or get canceled and anyway.
Right.
So I don't know the status of Star Trek. It's
Oh.
This is what happens when your mouse rolls off your desk. So, but I think we'll just go over about I think I lost about a minute. It can easily be cut because thank goodness I'm just recording this. So with Star Trek again, it's very uncertain. So I
Mhm.
definitely want to hear your thoughts before we at some point in time on the Star Trek universe. But like you said, it comes down to the writing and it comes down to if there still can be a love had for Star Trek.
Yeah, and there's Star Trek is a complicated thing to talk about. Um and I don't want to say it has a complicated history, because I'm not sure that that's right, but it feels right to say it that way. I don't know how else to put it. It's the topic of Star Trek is complicated, and it's complicated because the things that worked are the things that they're not delivering anymore. It seems to me anyway. But is Monster of the Week still enough? Are people still entertained by Monster of the Week? To me, that's a relevant question. Do they need stories? Do they need the tragic story? Do they need the come from behind hero character? Do they need all of that stuff anymore? I don't know. So it's definitely worth a chat for sure.
Absolutely, indeed. I look forward to that. And also, at some point in time, I have to get your husband back in the groove as far as Warhammer is concerned for another edition of Warhammer 101 for people out there. Indeed. So, yes. I mean, there's more Warhammer that's coming on.
There's so much Warhammer.
Yeah. So I've already seen it announced at recent, during the Video Game Awards. Yeah. So Warhammer is always on the way. But thank you so much, everyone, for stopping by. And again, big shout out to Melinda Barkhouse-Ross for stopping by. It is, of course, the Pop Culture Cosmos. Thanks so much for watching and listening. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.
Welcome to the Pop Culture Cosmos.